Hello everybody, welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with various wind for the Sequoia Creek and the Black Hole 9-hole cup. We are talking about Pro and Expert Division, which is the second tee. Before we take a closer look, make sure that you do hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. I strongly advise those that do have the possibility to step up into Master to do so. The reason for that is that there is a lower cut line, which means that 75% of the players in the qualifying round gets to the final round. And as there are more players playing the 9-hole cups than there are in the bigger tournaments, it's even easier to get to the final round. And we do also offer the ultimate tournament guide for the qualifying round and for the final round for those of you that are a Patreon. It doesn't matter what package you have, you will then get the qualifying round. And those having the ultimate tournament guide packages will get the final round guide as well. Link in the description down below, patreon.com/golf-tommy. Go and subscribe today. Follow the info box on the right hand side for the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also what ball and club type I suggest you to play with. Have in mind that those are all suggestions and you don't have to follow it if you don't want to, but there's always a plan behind it. So let's go to hole number 1. So for hole number 1, we're gonna start with the drive, obviously. Here I would like us to play with the quarterback if we do have a crosswind or a tailwind. If we do have a headwind, I would strongly advise you to play with the Thor's Hammer, Apocalypse, or the Extra Mile. Whatever club there that gives you the most topspin. We add the spins and then we look for the ball guideline to be centered down the fairway. Adjustment is max plus 20 and make sure to hit perfect. Playing with a katana or a kingmaker is my suggested choice. The reason for that is that we do want to have the side spin 3 for the second shot. This to play the way we want to, which is going to be the rough bump. Now for the second shot we're going to play with the runner, and that's maybe is a very weird choice, but the reason I want to play with the runner is to make sure that we do have the topspin enough to get the ball guideline to hold with the rough bump. Those of you that do have high-level Thor and high-level Hornet and also Falcons will obviously be able to use those clubs instead, because then you will have that topspin. But to put it into a general use or a general perspective, playing with runner, because more or less everyone would have a high-level runner, then that's a better choice of club from a general perspective. But again, if you do have a Thorn in the highest level, a Hornet or a Falcon, you can play with those clubs instead and still have the topspin and might then have a little bit better accuracy. 10% elevation and then true distance, which means that you check where max are, check where minimum distance are, and make a decision based on that. Hole number 1, in my opinion, is an extremely good chance to start off with an eagle. On hole number 2, I will give you 2 options here. One where we're gonna play, we maybe could call it conservative bounce over. It's still a good chance getting a hole in 1, but the rough bump that we're gonna see as option number 2 is gonna be the better one. 1 right spin, and then go with somewhere between 2 to 3 bars of topspin, depending on what wind angle you're having. Now we have a slight tailwind, and then therefore we're using around 2.5 bar topspin. More importantly, I'm looking at the third bounce as a reference to have that just onto the green, and then with the ball guideline pointing towards the hole. Maximum distance with a 15% over adjustment, center the ball and hit perfect. And even though I'm a fan of the rough bump, because I do believe the rough bump here is a very good chance, I do feel that those of you that don't want to take the risk with a rough bump can definitely have a decent success with bouncing over like that. However though, this hurts. Getting short in line like that, just staying on the lip, are not something we do want to happen in the tournament. But it at least displays a safe way of getting a birdie with a chance for an hole-in-one. So for the rough bump option here for hole number 2, we can use either a katana or we can use a kingmaker. We can obviously use a titan too. I would recommend a kingmaker though, even though I play with a katana. The reason for that is that I would like to reduce the wind as much as possible when it comes to playing on this fairly skinny rough bump. I'm using 2 right spin and whatever backspin to get the ball guideline to be just short of the hole. I want to have the ball guideline straight down towards the pin because there is a little funnel there, and that's something we do want to try to catch. Medium distance with a 15% over adjustment, and then center the ball and hit. Perfect. With a perfect ball, I do truly believe this is going to be a good chance to get a drop. Bounce into the rough and it falls down, and we're getting it right at pin for a beautiful hole-in-one. So the thing here for hole number 2, like again, you can play conservative as shown in the option number 1, but for the best chance for an hole-in-one, the rough bump is definitely your way to play. Hole number 3 is going to be a fairly boring par 5, especially if we do not have the possibility to bounce over the water. You can see here now that with this type of wind and with a club such as Apocalypse level 5 or better, you would have the possibility to clear the water. So, but in this case, with Apocalypse level 4 and just an angled tailwind, that's going to be a stretch in my opinion. So what I would recommend here is that if you do have a tailwind, or a crosswind for that matter, you can play with the rock, otherwise use the extra mile. The goal here is to get the ball to be as close to the rough at the top possible, and just to take it easy. We don't want to risk anything and go into the rough. Max plus 20 is what we're doing, and then trying to hit perfect. Obviously a great left or a great right will not be as good, but it should still be fine. Like, we have a lot of room on the fairway, and once again, the only goal we have here is to position us as close to the rough possible to then have an open shot towards the green. So if you do not have the possibility to go over the water, this is only going to be played as an eagle and run play. You can obviously be lucky clipping the rough with the second bounce and roll it into the hole, but that, I would say, is gonna be not impossible, but very, very difficult, especially if you don't have a good ball guideline to use. So here I'm adjusting max plus 10. I'm pushing up a little bit because I was a little bit short of my target position, and then getting the ball to bounce on the fairway into the rough to roll down towards the green. You can see coming in a little bit hot, but there is room to roll hot here and just sit there for a nice and safe eagle. So once again, if you do have the possibility to clear the water with a drive, then we do that. Then we do have a long iron towards the pin. Not that I'm saying that that's going to be an easy shot to drop, but it's still going to be a chance to drop. I would say having to lay up, which will be the more common way to play, then it's an eagle, and then it's an eagle and then move on to the next hole. For hole number 4, we are going to bounce just before the bunker using our sniper. I know that there is a rough bump here, however though, the rough bump has never really been my favorite way of playing here, because I do believe we can catch the funnel a little bit easier from here behind. So you can see here that I'm adding spins and I'm moving the target as much right that I can to have the ball guideline pointing towards the pin, but also short, because we do have a tailwind. We need to have in mind that this ball guideline will be extended and we don't want to come in too hot, which is very easy on this par 3. Medium distance with a 20% over adjustment, center the ball, hit perfect, and you're gonna see yourself having a good chance for an hole-in-one. I'm using a Kingmaker to reduce the wind as much as possible. You don't have to play with a Kingmaker because there's obviously other balls to choose between. But you can see right that pin, even though it was a little bit hot, but it's still a drop, and we take it and move on to the next hole. For hole number 5, I'm gonna focus on a send it option here for you in the playthrough, and you can send it here regardless of what tailwind you're having. You can even have a little bit more crosswind, you can still send it, and I think that's the way to do. The only way to lay up is if you do have a straight crosswind or if you do have a headwind. Then you lay up on the right and you attack the pin from distance. But if we do have a tailwind, this hole is gonna be kind of fun, because then the hole-in-one is actually in play. Aiming a little bit left of the sequoia tree, using the Apocalypse to make sure that I can use a decent amount of curl. In this instance, I'm using 1.5 ball of right curl. Maximum distance plus 10 with the adjustment, push up to max, and then just shoot, like use as much overpower you can. And you can see here that the ball is now on the green, and we have an easy putt for the eagle. Using a power 5 ball here will, for especially those of you that do have a lot more topspin on your club, such as a POC 6, 7, and 8, then you don't have to go with max OP with the fastest needle like I'm doing here now. Then you can actually avoid pushing up, and you can actually play with a slower needle and have much easier success on hole 5 to get an eagle. So hole number 5 is going to be fun if we do get tailwind, but have in mind, if we do not have tailwind, we can't play this type of shot, and we're going to have to lay up. Hole number 6, we are going to lay up to the second fairway. This is going to be a tough par 5. I would say this is the toughest of the par 5s to just generally getting an eagle. So we are using all the topspin we can on the quarterback and 2 bars of right spin. The goal here is to bounce the ball into the rough to roll out on the other fairway. If you do have the skills of doing a power slice, then you can try that in tailwind, trying to get the ball to bounce on the second fairway first, and then to go as far to the right possible to have a more open shot towards the green. Unfortunately, the wind needs to be pretty high, and there is a lot of risk with a shot like that, because you can see there are so many sequoia trees that you can get stuck behind, and if you get stuck behind, that's an automatic birdie. Second shot here now is that we are bouncing over the bunker. This is a very difficult shot where obviously a better ball guideline is super helpful. Now with the Cataclysm level 4, it's a lot of guesswork, and my only idea here is to not go too far. Sure, if I'm dropping the albatross, no one is going to be happier than me, but I'm not counting with it, so to speak. I'm using a power 5 ball here called a Berserker, and if you have the possibility to play with a power 5 ball that has less or like more wind resistance, such as a Luminary maybe, or even like a Rose ball that has wind 2 instead of the wind 1, that's a big plus, because that will obviously help the second shot to become a little bit easier to attack the pin with. For hole number 7, we are going to play a fairly tough drive, and the only reason this drive is tough is due to the sequoia tree that we do have on the right hand side, because we do kind of need to play around it, if that makes sense. And that's something you can do, but we're going to obviously have to play a close line to be aiming close to the rough line. 3 right spin and as much topspin you can use. So if you have more than 4.5 bar topspin, use that. Use as much as you can. And I'm using 3/4 of a ball in curl to the right. Max plus 10 is the adjustment. Bouncing on the fairway here, and we get this ball up to be in between the 2 bunkers, and this gives us an open chance to attack the pin with our thorn. So here I would strongly recommend you to use the short iron that gives you the best ball guideline. And with that in mind, this is the thorn on this account, and even though it's just level 7, it's still, I mean, it's makeable, but obviously not as easy as it would be if we do have the thorn level 8 or level 9. Ball guideline to be slightly short of hole, just to compensate for the lesser ball guideline here. 20% elevation, and we're going to pull over the bullseye. And here, as we are close to max line, we're gonna play it close to max as well. And I think that's very important to always check where max line are, and always check where minimum line are, to make a judgment of what type of club distance you're going to play. Just getting it to drop on the left hand side, but I mean, I don't care how it drops, just that it drops. Hole number 7 gives us a good chance for an eagle. Hole number 8 is by far the toughest par 3 on the Sequoia Creek, and I do enjoy when we do have headwind here, because then we can play with our quarterback in complete minimum distance. I prefer this over playing with a sniper from absolute max line. So you can see here now that I'm putting my target into min distance, and I'm using whatever side spin and backspin that gets my ball guideline to point just right of the pin, and also slightly short. So even though it looks like we're gonna go short, it's not really how this hole and how this green works, because it actually will give you the correct distance once it gets up towards the green. Minimum distance with a 20% over adjustment, and I'm playing with a navigator. I would say this is a par 3 where I will most likely not spend any of the better balls on, and the reason for that is that even if we do have a drop to be able to follow, it's still a wildly inconsistent fairway that we are bouncing on, and that's something that will be complicated to always have a plan for and always have the possibility to adapt for. So playing with a navigator or Quasar or a Katana for that matter, I think is going to be the best ball that I will be playing with, at least, to not spend any kingmakers on this par 3. Hole number 9, now headwind off tee is not the funnest thing to have, but we are still able to play with the rock, which has a very good accuracy, and that helps us immensely when it comes to getting over to the second fairway on the left. 4 topspin and 3 left spin, starting at the +1 yard mark, red ring by the rough line, and now I'm going to adjust for max +10, P3 numbers. So adjustment is made just into overpower, so I do need to add a little bit of overpower here on the second shot. Full curl to the left, we do want to push the ball to be as far down the left side on the second fairway to be able to attack the pin by going with a rough bump. The more right we are, the further away from the pin we will be, and that's obviously going to complicate things, especially if we do have a little headwind. Now, for the second shot, we're going to use the sniper and we're going to do a rough bump. Here, obviously, if you do not have a sniper in level 9 or 10, or even, I would say, lowest level 8, then you either just play for an eagle or you choose another club that gives you more topspin, because the topspin here is the trick. We do want to have the ball guideline to go through the hole in headwind. In tailwind, we do want to have the ball guideline to go just to the hole instead. Adjustment here is true distance minus 5% elevation. So whatever club distance you have, then that's going to be the adjustment you're going to use as slider. Center the ball, hit perfect. And you can see here that I'm using a little bit of overpower, and the reason I do that is due to the headwind. So to compensate and not having to push up, then I'm using the overpower. So it zooms out very nicely and it looks good. Maybe we can get it to drop. We can. Right that pin for a beautiful albatross here on hole number 9. This one is not an easy one to drop, but that rough bump there is definitely giving us a good chance. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with various wind here for the Black Hole 9-hole Cup in Golf Clash the Game. Have in mind that, as I said in the beginning, I do strongly recommend you to step up a division if you have that possibility. We do offer the ultimate tournament guides for Master, for qualifying round and for the final round for everyone that are a Patreon. Link is in the description down below. And as for the lower cut line with 75% making the final round, this is a perfect chance on getting a tournament chest in Master. So once again everyone, thank you so much for watching, and a massive good luck in your Golf Clash game.